Hello, class, and welcome. Today we are reading MUDSHARK Chapters 4 and 5. Let's begin. By Gary Paulson. Chapter 4. This is the principal. Would the custodian please report to the faculty restroom with a large stick, safety goggles, and a respirator mask? And would whoever took the erasers from room 203 please return them and refrain from removing erasers in the future? Also, while it is loose, and in spite of what I've said in the last announcement, the gerbil is not per se a wild animal and will not attack. So please refrain from screaming or otherwise panicking should you see said gerbil. Miss Undertoft bought an armadillo from a man on a street corner who said he was a professional armadillo salesman from Texas. Since Mr. Undertoft believed in everybody, she took him at his word and happily brought the little armadillo to school, sleeping soundly, she thought, rolled up in wood shavings in the corner of a glass tank. She named him Sparky, Sparky the amazing armadillo. Miss Undertoft spent long hours cooing soft words over Sparky's tank to help him have sweet dreams, because her research indicated that these particular armadillos were nocturnal. But when she asked the custodian about Sparky's nights, he said Sparky wasn't any more active in the evening hours when the custodian was there to clean the library. Miss Undertoft never noticed that she was the only person in the school who paid any attention to Sparky. After a curious glance by the student population the week he arrived, no one ventured nearer the table. The explosion of crayfish had curbed their interest in animal behavior. After a while, Mr. Undertoft became concerned because Sparky never unrolled and didn't even waken to eat special lumps of insects she supplied weekly. Armadillos were supposed to love those lumps. One day, when this had been going on for about 4 weeks, MUDSHARK noticed, although Sparky wasn't eating, the spider population of the library was incredibly well fed. He wandered over to Sparky's tank and watched a line of spiders drop in, wrap up Sparky's food, and scramble up the sides of the glass tank, stolen dinner in tow. MUDSHARK took a close look at Sparky, reaching into the tank to nudge him. MUDSHARK's eyes widened with surprise. MUDSHARK waited until he and Miss Undertoft were the only people in the library. Then he said carefully, Miss Undertoft, did you notice that Sparky is, special? Of course he's special. Why, he's downright amazing. He was one of 4 identical babies born in his litter. All armadillos are born 4 at a time from one egg. Isn't that cunning? No, I mean, that's clever, very utilitarian, and my family has an appreciation of the multiple birth phenomenon, as you well know, but what I was talking about specifically was that Sparky seems to have, well, it looks to me like a brass clasp holding his stomach contents in place. Miss Undertoft peered intently at Sparky. MUDSHARK had flipped him over on his side out of the burrow of wood shavings. Well, I'll be, she said. Would you look at that? It's a purse. Sparky is actually a purse. Fine observation, Lyle. She beamed at MUDSHARK proudly, and then she reached in, plucked Sparky out of the glass tank, and snapped open the clasp. Oh, look, a penny. This is my lucky day. Thank you, Lyle, for bringing this to my attention. She smiled at MUDSHARK before taking Sparky to her office and unloading the contents of her old handbag into a new one. Although Miss Undertoft was thrilled with her new purse, she still wanted interesting and educational creatures in the library for the betterment of the students, and so she bought a parrot. Chapter 5. This is the principal. Would the custodian please report to the faculty restroom with a plastic shield, a hazardous waste suit, and a large container of pepper spray. Also, whoever took the erasers out of room 202, please return them and refrain from removing erasers from 202 in the future. Also, refrain from taking erasers from 204. Thank you. Oh, and the gerbil was seen near the vice principal's office. She said it was scurrying very rat-like. You should not try to pick it up if it is indeed a rat. I repeat, refrain from picking up rats. Thank you. The parrot sat completely still for the better part of a week, so still and quiet that MUDSHARK thought Miss Undertoft might have bought it from the same man who sold her Sparky the Amazing Armadillo / Kiki New Everyday handbag. But after a week or so, the parrot burped, coughed, scratched, and a million empty birdseed shells onto the floor, emitted a sound that should have been accompanied by methane, looked at Miss Undertoft and said, Hey, babe, what's happening? The parrot seemed to know that he lived in the library. He spoke in a near whisper. Gradually, everybody realized that he seemed to speak several different languages, or at least it sounded as if he did. Marley Lipinski, for some unknown reason, swore he was reciting off-color limericks in ancient Sanskrit. Of course, nobody understood the languages anyway, so it didn't matter how racy the poems were. Other than that, the incessant belching, the parrot fit right into Miss Undertoft's library. She didn't mind the burps or the potentially bad words because they were, she announced, proof of life after Sparky. That was good enough for her. When the bird had been in Miss Undertoft's care for just over a month, Betty Crimper came into the library and asked if anybody had seen her paper on how to make salve out of lard. She had been working on the project for quite a long time, buying pound blocks of lard at the grocery store and mixing the lard with what she called experimental chemicals. Betty was always doing one experiment or another, looking for a miracle cure or an amazing beauty potion that would make her rich and famous, or at least rich. She posted a sign out of her locker reading, "Temporary home of the future Betty Crimper Research and Development Laboratory." And except for the time that she tried to bottle odors to repel, and they had to close down the entire north end of the school after she dropped a small jar in the hall, her experiments had not been too dramatic. Betty had packed that jar full of something her cat had dragged in, which she had cured in the sun. As she watched the hazmat team herd the students into the front yard, she'd made a careful note in her lab notebook. The curing process went on a bit too long, leading to a surprising intensity. General population not ready for odors to repel. Contact United States Marine Corps. Possible use as weapon. Her new lard salve, though, seemed to do little damage except draw flies. This meant that the deathball players who used Betty's salve as muscle balm walked around in clouds of insects. The players' eyes watered uncontrollably when they used the stuff, but they swore that Betty's concoction was the best bruise medication they'd ever tried. There came the day when she rushed into the library and cried, "Has anyone seen my lard recipe?" "Why don't you ask Mud?" somebody started to say, but before the sentence was finished, the parrot belched and squawked and said, "Check the window latch in the girls' restroom." MUDSHARK, who was there, of course, he was always in the library, turned to look at the parrot and frowned and then said to Betty, "He's right, you should go look." So Betty found her paper on the ledge where it had fallen out of her notebook when she washed her hands after science the day before. Betty had been compulsive about washing her hands after working in the science lab and the episode of the itching scabs. As curious as it was that a parrot should speak logically and not just mimic what he had heard a person say, and that a mere bird could help somebody find something, the incident passed largely unnoticed by everyone other than MUDSHARK. He spent a good deal of the rest of the day gazing thoughtfully at the parrot. Later that week, Clyde Damper was in the library and whispered that he'd lost a book. Before anyone could even think, "Ask MUDSHARK," the parrot belched, squawked, and said, "On the bench by the coach's office." Clyde's surprise turned to MUDSHARK, who was observing the bird. MUDSHARK looked at Clyde and said, "He's right." Clyde found the book that was sitting where the parrot and MUDSHARK had said it would be. Clyde had collected the previous day's attendance sheet from the teacher and then taken them to the office earlier that morning and had dropped them outside Coach's office, setting the book down while it gathered papers from the floor. Twice now the bird had known where to find something, even though it had never left the library. "I think," Clyde said to his friends, "that the bird is special. He has powers. Maybe he's psychic." By the end of the day, the word was all over the school. First, the parrot in the library was psychic. And second, the parrot could outthink MUDSHARK. That's where we're going to end for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow for chapters 6 and 7.